Welcome to the Swarthmore Athletics podcast. I'm Brandon Hodnett.
And I'm Matt Judge.
Matt, good to be talking with you over Zoom here. I know you're on campus right now. I'm at home. Students are coming back on campus. Have you seen anybody on campus today? Or
I have actually seen some students on campus. They're getting checked in right now. They're getting their COVID test and they're kind of just trying to get their new normalcy back right now.
yeah, it's good to have juniors and sophomores back on campus this semester. They were away while freshmen and sophomores were here in the fall, as we're trying to keep campus from being completely full again this semester. But it is definitely encouraging to see people back on campus, and we've been lonely. There haven't been students on campus since before Thanksgiving. So
Yeah, it's been very difficult. I mean, I it's weird seeing them back, but it's nice.
we did an interview with Marie Mancini recently, kind of outlining the different ways that we're addressing COVID protocols this spring, as teams will be getting back to practice soon here shortly. Um, and speaking of some of these videos that we've done, people have seen us, Matt, on some of these videos in the podcasts, but I don't think they necessarily know a lot of what we do. If you just want to start by telling the people that are watching this and listening to this, kind of, when games are in full swing and even now that they're not, what are some of the things that we do, Matt?
So anything you see on social media and anything you see on swarthmoreathletics.com is everything that Brandon and I do. I'm the assistant director of athletic communications. And when things are in full swing, I handle the sports media. I'm the primary contact for volleyball, field hockey, women's basketball, indoor and outdoor track and field, baseball, and softball. Those are my primary sports, but I help cover your sports as well because it's all hands on deck, especially when we're hosting games. So when we're hosting games, we're responsible for making sure the stats are ready to go, making sure the video streams are ready to go so that if you can't make it to the game, you're watching on our broadcast channels. That's just a little glimpse into it, but there's so many different things that we do.
Yeah, I mean, we're making digital game programs before the games. We're keeping stats. We're doing PA announcing. We're doing, announcing on the broadcasting, making sure photos are being taken, highlight videos are made, a little bit of everything. Game days are definitely the craziest, especially in the spring when we have softball, baseball, and either men's or women's lacrosse all going on at the same time, and that can get a little hectic. But
It can. The crossover season is definitely, I think, very hectic. When I started in October 2019, we were in the middle of the fall season, so I jumped right into the ship. Then we were beginning from fall. The fall season was ending. Then we were jumping right into the winter season. So I remember when we had men's soccer NCAA tournament here, and then we had to jump right over and had a basketball doubleheader. So it was kind of we were running all over the place. So when a crossover season like that happens, when there's only two facilities that are occupied, it's very hectic.
yeah, it can be a lot, but we love it. We live for the game days, and we can't wait to see them back on campus. But one of the things that we have been doing you know, to occupy our time and to make sure that we're staying productive has been, we've been doing a lot of historical research in our office, and we have tons of records, tons of hard copies of box scores, old photographs, and we want them to be accessible to people online. So Matt, maybe you can just talk a little bit about the things that we've been doing to get them digitized and organized in a good way.
So like you mentioned, we're in the office, but we're switching days so that we're COVID safe, but we are scanning old box scores. We're scanning old pictures. We're trying to get some old video back onto our Google Drive. It's under comprehensive history. We have everything from every sport there. As long as we have the records, we're trying to get them onto the Google Drive so that alum can see what their stats were when they were here.
Definitely uncovered a lot of gems in our office, and we want them to be available to all the alumni out there and make sure that things aren't being lost to history. And we're gonna touch on some of our findings here later in the show, but Another thing that we've been doing during this time is making sure that when we do come back to playing sports, that we're just taking things to the next level. And one of those ways is improving our broadcasts. And we feel like we have a really good broadcasting program already, but we want to take things to the next level again. And so, when teams are playing again, hopefully in the fall, there's expect to see different camera angles that you've never seen before, and just different. Things should look different and better, based on what you remember from the last time we had a broadcast. So exciting changes coming down the line, and we think everyone will be happy with them.
Definitely, and I agree. We're trying to make our fan experience not only great for those that attend the games, but also those that are watching from afar, because our student population comes from all over the country and even from all over the world. So we want to make sure that their family and friends are able to watch their games in the best possible way.
I think it was like 2 years ago, I did a survey of where all of our athletes were from, and we had more student athletes from California than Pennsylvania. And that just kind of seems like a common thread. We had so many states and different countries around the world represented. And so for us, live streaming our games is really important to us because we know that people are tuning in from all over the world.
Yeah, I think you have that map hanging in the lobby at Tarbell Pavilion, which is actually really eye-opening to see.
Yeah.
It's because you think, I grew up in Delaware County, so I knew of Swarthmore College just from growing up in the community. How do other students hear about Swarthmore College? It's a small school, but we are going to touch on how big of an academic institution Swarthmore College really is.
And this is interesting. We're just ranked number 1 in the country among liberal arts. And I'm kind of jumping ahead in our programming a little bit, but I think this is a good time to mention it. But Forbes magazine recently just ranked Swarthmore College the best liberal arts college in the US based on academic influence. And the way they came up with that, it's a new college rankings method. It uses artificial intelligence to search these massive databases, and it's measuring the impact of work by individuals affiliated with the college throughout the world. And so kind of based on that, they've seen that, graduates of Swarthmore have made this huge impact worldwide. And based on that, they're ranking us the number 1 liberal arts college in the world. So that's pretty cool.
It's very cool. And I think it's well-deserved, because you talk to some of these student athletes and you kind of have to ask them to repeat what they're studying, because I don't fully understand it, but they definitely do. And it's impressive what they're studying.
Well, Matt, let's shift gears here a little bit and let's talk. It's a couple days after the Super Bowl that we're filming this. Super Bowl feels like Tom Brady's in it every year, and he won it again this year. 7th Super Bowl win for him. What were your thoughts from the game and some of the takeaways from that?
I'm a little biased. I'm an Eagles fan, so I don't like seeing Tom Brady win. But I think personally, I was happy that he won because it was without Bill Belichick. I did want to see Andy Reid win it because, again, I'm an Eagles fan, so I wanted to see him happy again. However, it just wasn't. I didn't think it lived up to the hype. I was expecting an offensive showdown. Kansas City and the Chiefs didn't really get anything going, and that was kind of disappointing to me. But I do want to give a quick shout out to Coach Matt Midkiff. He's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan.
True.
His Lightning won the Stanley Cup, and back in October we were talking about it, and he didn't think he wasn't 100% positive if they were going to make it to the Super Bowl, yet alone win it. He was just hoping that they'd make it to the playoffs and have some fun, and well, look how they did. They won the Super Bowl, but again, kind of not happy Tom Brady won, but kind of indifferent, because as long as it's nobody in the NFC East. How about you? What do you think? We were talking Sunday morning about how we thought it was going to be an offensive showdown, but didn't really live up to that.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that was due to Mahomes with a lingering foot injury, or 2 of his offensive linemen being out from the game. But yeah, I was really expecting more of a shootout, and it didn't live up to the hype. And I'll admit I couldn't make it through the whole game. Kind of lost interest by the time the 4th quarter came around. But yeah, coming back to Tom Brady, I personally don't like him because just the times that, the time that he beat the Eagles back when Donovan McNabb was the quarterback. But I am glad that we beat him with Nick Foles at the helm. But still a little upset that he never shook Nick Foles' hand after the game that time, or after the Bears beat him too this year. But anyway, moving on. But Tom Brady, clearly the greatest quarterback of all time. That he's the GOAT. And so thinking about that, I wanted to talk about some Swarthmore GOATs. I think for sake of time, we should probably just talk about spring sports since we're moving into the spring season here. But who are some of the GOATs at Swarthmore, the greatest of all time? And maybe let's start with softball.
So it's a very difficult topic, just because there's so many the games have changed over the years. But I'm going to start with Barbara Ann Schaefer. Threw 5 no-hitters, finished with a career 0.78 earned run average, and also had a 337 batting average. As a sophomore, she was ranked in the top 10 for Division III pitchers. That's very impressive. I think she's in our Hall of Fame. I think it's very impressive. I think she's definitely at the top of the list. That's one name I would throw out there. How about you? Do you have one you want to throw out there?
One that sticks out to me is Catherine Riley. I think she's a doctor, she's a professor here, but her career on the softball field was just incredible. She could get it done in the circle or at the plate. 4 career no-hitters, 77 complete games, struck out 557 batters, and racked up 166 hits at the plate as well. And I think she's tied for the program best in home runs as well. So, and she's tied with Michelle Walsh, who might also be in that conversation for the softball GOAT, recently inducted into Swarthmore's Hall of Fame. Program's all-time leader in total bases, batting average, slugging percentage, RBIs, home runs, and triples. Like, come on, that's quite the resume. And I think she batted 500 or over 500.
Yeah, I believe up there. Yeah.
So that's definitely impressive. So I think that those are some, good considerations for GOATs for softball. Baseball, it's another tricky conversation because there's a lot of history of baseball, first of all, at Swarthmore dating back into the 1800s. And the game has obviously changed a lot in those days, with like launch angle today and,
analytics.
Analytics. Yeah. So a lot of that has changed, but there are some names that stick out. And going back to those early days of Swarthmore baseball, Swarthmore has had a couple players go pro. And one of those early ones was Moose Earnshaw. And he's in our Garnet Athletics Hall of Fame, but he was, a World Series winning pitcher for the Philadelphia Athletics. And, that's the highest level that you can get. And, he was the starting pitcher, won a couple games in the World Series. So he's probably in consideration as one of those GOATs from Swarthmore baseball. We don't know as much about his career while he was at Swarthmore. We're still working on researching that. But as far as his career afterwards in the MLB, pretty impressive.
It's definitely impressive. And going off of that, it's a 19-year vet in the majors, Dick Hall. He holds the program's top batting average of .412, a career 1.69 ERA, and 281 strikeouts. It's just unbelievable. I mean, like you said, the game has changed, but those records still hold true today.
Yeah.
And he played in the 1950s. So playing back in the 1950s, we're already 70 years into it. And they've come close, but they haven't really fully been touched yet. So, and we're going to move on to Ed Green. He's a member of the Hall of Fame, a 1985 ABCA third team All-American, the first baseball All-American for Swarthmore. That's an impressive record to check off. He finished in 1985 with an 8-1 record, and on the mound, or in the batter's box, he had a .473 batting average. So he did it both on the hill and at the plate. and he helped Swarthmore to its first MAC championship. So he was an all-around team player.
Yeah, and the first NCAA tournament appearance for Swarthmore baseball too.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was quite the football player as well, quite the all-around athlete.
And he was, I believe, he was drafted in the 13th round by the Milwaukee Brewers. So he didn't follow his football passion, but he followed his baseball passion, and that's another Major League Baseball player that came from Swarthmore.
Yeah, and then also in consideration for for the greatest of all time in baseball, couple players from kind of the modern era, the more recent years in Swarthmore baseball. Some of them, it's really hard to differentiate. I mean, you had really great players like Charlie Levitt, Jackson Roberts, Ricky Conti, Sawyer Lake, Ryan Warm, just a whole Jack Corkery, just all these great pitchers, batters. But I think one player really kind of stands out from this modern era, and that would be Cole Beaker. And I know you didn't get to see him play a lot, but some of his stats really stand out.
Yeah, and that's somebody on the baseball team that you definitely mentioned to me. That's like, oh, you have to watch him play. I was fortunate enough to see him play a handful of games here at Swarthmore, and I just remember him hitting a bomb against, I believe it was New Jersey City University in one of the last games here on campus before they left for spring break. He was a 2020 COSIDA Academic All-American second team, 2019 D3Baseball.com All-American fourth team. He's the all-time leader in doubles with 56, RBIs 154, walks 82. And he also has several single season records. And he didn't get to finish out his fourth year at Swarthmore. If he did, I think some of those records that are held by others right now would belong to Cole. So he's definitely a great name for consideration.
Yeah, so a lot of great names in baseball. There's going to be some debate. I'm sure we'll get some feedback online about names that we left off. But men's lacrosse, another team with a really long history, a couple national championships early in the 1900s. But I think, after looking at all the names, I'd say probably the greatest of all time in Swarthmore men's lacrosse is Avery Blake Jr. First of all, he's a member of the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame. Pretty big deal, when the national body of your sport picks you into the Hall of Fame. He's tied for first in the program with 132 goals scored, 4-time All-American. That's saying something. Yeah. And in 1953, this is interesting. His senior year, the team went 9-1. They only lost by 1 goal, and that was to Johns Hopkins. But the teams, they beat Penn State, beat University of Pennsylvania, Loyola, Delaware, Lafayette, Lehigh, Drexel. Some storied lacrosse programs, and that was really a special time period for Swarthmore men's lacrosse. But Avery Blake was at the forefront of that. So I think above everyone else, he kind of sets himself apart.
When the Hall of Fame of your sport, National Hall of Fame, calls your name, I think that says something. And just reading some of those accolades that you had there really make him stand out as a men's lacrosse player.
Yeah. Women's lacrosse side, this one's a tough one too, because there have been some just really, really good women's lacrosse players in Swarthmore Athletics history. 2 names stick out to me. Kristen English. She was a 2-time first team All-American, and she was the National Defender of the Year. She's a member of our Athletics Hall of Fame. There's another name, Julian Noyes. She only played at Swarthmore for 3 years, but in that time, she set the then NCAA all-time record for goals in a career in just 3 years. So she scored 278 times in just 47 games. She was also a 2-time first team All-American. So, her record has since been broken as far as total goals, but for that time, I think she graduated in 1994. That was the most all-time in Division III. So pretty impressive.
It's very impressive. And to do it, I know Kristen English was a 2-sport athlete. and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure about Julian Noyes, but to be able to put up those numbers and have those accolades, not only just on one sport, but to put them up in multiple sports is very impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, I'll throw it to another sport that you cover. Let's talk track and field. Who are some of the goats?
Okay, so like we mentioned, this is going to be tough to say there's one GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
Track and field, you have the field events, you have the track events. They're all just all over the place.
So different too, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to judge which is which. So I'm going to start on the women's track and field side. We'll start out with Clay Connolly, Kaylin Malarkey, and Emo Akban. They're all Americans. They all hold different records, both indoor and outdoor, in their respective spots. However, there's one athlete that does stick out. Jo Mcmenamin, the NCAA champion in 2016 in the 1500 meter race. She's a 3-time All-American in the 800 meters indoor, mile indoor, 1500 outdoor, 5,000 mile outdoor, and she holds those records as well. So I think that as an individual champion in NCAA, that definitely sets you a little bit higher than anybody else. But like we said, track and field is definitely difficult to judge because of all the different events. The sprinters aren't the same as distance runners. Everybody's completely different. So I think we both agreed on Jo Mcmenamin.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you're the best in your sport that year or best in your event that year, like that's pretty hard to beat.
So then on the men's track and field side, we have Peter Mcginnis. He was the first All-American track and field All-American for Swarthmore. He placed 5th in the pole vault at the 1975 NCAA championships and still holds the record for outdoor pole vault, which was set at the 1974 Penn Relays.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool because Penn Relays are it's a worldwide event. Mm-hmm. You have the USA versus the world games, and then you have colleges and high schools coming from all over the place to compete. And if you win anything, or if you even compete at the Penn Relays, that's an impressive feat in itself. The second name I would throw out there is Mark Julian, an All-American in the 5,000 and the 10,000 meter race. And I believe he holds the school records for both of them. So, like you said, there's somebody on the track, somebody in the field events, but it's very difficult to judge who is the best of that sport because of all the different events that are going on.
And again, apologies for people that we may have left off, and we're just trying to pick out some of the names that stick out to us, and there may be some that we've missed, and we want to hear about it, so let us know. But so a couple more spring sports that we want to get through. Golf. Swarthmore, for the most part, has just had a men's golf team for a long time. They have had some women competing as individuals, most recently Amanda Beebe, who was a all-centennial performer while she was here. And on the men's side, one name really stood out to me, and this has kind of been interesting as we've been doing some of this historical research through our archives. I've been looking through old newspaper clippings, but Harry Haverstick, class of 1940. This is, I'm just finding this out, that he actually competed for the NCAA National Championship in 1940, and he was the runner-up. So they used to do match play where they would, you compare your score hole by hole basis, and you'd get a point if you won that hole, and they would kind of do head-to-head matchups, and he just kept eliminating people until got all the way to the championship round and lost by one hole. So he was very close to being Swarthmore's first individual NCAA champion. And back then, there wasn't Division 1, 2, and 3. So he lost to someone from University of Virginia. But, beat someone from Duke on the way there, and just a bunch of other big Division I schools on his way there. So quite the golfer. He actually played in the U.S. Open later in life, but yeah, quite the accomplished golfer. Still doing some more research, finding out about his accolades, but I think based on kind of what I just said, he sticks out as the GOAT for men's golf.
And it's definitely interesting you say that he lost to somebody from the University of Virginia, because the Southern schools tend to be better in the golf realm.
That's true. They have more time to be outside, and
yeah, if you look at your background, that was just a few days ago.
yeah, there weren't indoor golf simulators like we have here at Swarthmore back in 1940. So I don't know where Harry Haverstick was practicing during the winter. Actually, he was playing basketball at Swarthmore during the winter to stay active. Okay. But yeah, he quite the accomplished golfer for sure. Yeah. Moving on to women's tennis. Lots of really great women's tennis players in the history, but Anjani Reddy, who is in our Hall of Fame, really sticks out to me. And as we were looking at this, her Hall of Fame bio leads off with she went 50-0 in Centennial Conference matches.
Wow. Okay.
So okay, you didn't lose a single Centennial Conference match in your 4 years. All right. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Four-time Centennial Player of the Year. So every year she was here, she was a Centennial Player of the Year, and she was a 3-time All-American. So she gets my vote as the greatest of all time.
I think that one definitely stands out. Like you said, 4-time Centennial Player of the Year. Every year you're Centennial Player of the Year. I think that automatically sends you into your school's Hall of Fame. You would hope, at least. But didn't lose a single match, and then had 3 All-American honors. That's impressive.
Yeah. Men's tennis. This gets a little tricky because men's tennis has won 4 national championships. And in some very different eras. So this is kind of tricky. So we might get some pushback on some of these, but some names I'll throw out there. First one, this one's a maybe. Tim Koss from the 1950s. He won the MAC championship 7 times in, I guess, 4 times in singles, 3 times in doubles. So that's pretty impressive. Then I want to go to Shep Davidson. He's in our Hall of Fame, 5-time All-American, finished 3rd in the NCAA singles tournament. He won the NCAA doubles tournament with teammate Jeff Krieger, and they won the team tournament. And he was named the National Senior of the Year. So that's a pretty good resume there. Then you got Steve Brown. He was a member of the 1981 championship team, 5-time All-American as well. He was the #1 seed in NCAA singles tournament. You've got the pairing of Larry Davidson and John Irwin. They won the 1976 NCAA doubles championship, and they were the first individual champions in school history. Steve Tigner is another name I would throw out there, class of 91, 7-time All-American, and his team won the 1990 national championship. So I know there's names that we have looked over, that could be in consideration for this. So again, apologies for missing people, but those are some of the names in consideration for the greatest of all time.
They all have impressive resumes. I mean, I don't think, like you said, there's one just to pick out there, because you have a national champion, you have a 7-time MAC champion, you have 7-time All-American. And how do you just choose one? You can't.
Right.
And you said this is very difficult because they have national championships. And the list is just longer, but this is just the list that you narrowed down. And I think you did a great job, and I'd have to agree with those names.
Well, I think we got through everyone on the spring sports side. So we are going to take a quick break. We are going to see a little introduction about the Garnet Healthy Mind Minute. It's a new video initiative that we're going to be rolling out videos promoting mental health. We're going to roll that clip and we'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to Garnet Healthy Mind Minute. This is our first video of a fun series we are doing. Today, we're going to talk about returning to campus or not. And the point is that you're not alone as you make these decisions and how you're engaging with school for the spring term of 2021. And the more we can talk about our stresses and worries, the more normalized it becomes. And you realize you have a community of people, whether they're your friends, your family, your classmates, your teammates. And the more we can communicate with each other and get out and about, the more we can manage through this, because this isn't going to last forever, but it is for the spring term. So we want to make it as enjoyable and stress-free as we possibly can. Try and roll in as much of fun and normality as we can and continue to talk about it, because the worst place that these thoughts can stay is in your mind without sharing them. I hope you found this a helpful minute and look forward to seeing you in the next series.
Well, that was the Garnet Healthy Mind Minute. Thank you, Amber, for that, and be on the lookout for more as they come in the future. So we're moving on to our next segment. Most memorable games that we've worked. Do you want to get started since you have a little bit more background here at Swarthmore?
Sure, yeah. So I've been at Swarthmore since 2015. Crazy to think about, but I've seen a considerable more games at Swarthmore than you have, Matt, in your 6 months here or whatever, or 6 months of games anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely been, man, so many games that stick out to me. I'll start with one and then I'll bounce it over to you for one that you can think of. But going back to 2017, I got to travel with Swarthmore women's soccer to Johns Hopkins for the Centennial Conference Championship tournament. And, you know, the reason that this game sticks out to me is that it went to PKs and Swarthmore went with Summer Dennison in goal during PKs. And she was a senior. She had been a field player her first 3 years. Swarthmore was in need of a backup goalie her senior year. And, you know, she stepped up. She's like, Coach, I feel like this is how I could help out the team. I want to learn to be a goalie. And so she, you know, did all this work, all this training to be prepared for that. And she got her chance in PKs with the Centennial Conference Championship on the line. She recorded 2 saves and Swarthmore won PKs 3-1 to clinch the Centennial Conference Championship. So that definitely stands out to me as one of the most memorable games that I've been a part of here.
Yeah, that's an impressive story because it's definitely a team player right there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I started back in October 2019, so my sample size is a little bit smaller than you. But I'm going to start with Swarthmore men's soccer. The result wasn't really what we wanted, but it was when we were hosted Connecticut College here during the NCAA tournament in 2019. The atmosphere was electric. The students, faculty, and staff, and the community all came out to watch this team. It went into overtime. They won 2 games on the road in the NCAA tournament, came home to host the next round. It was impressive because that was my first real kind of experience with all the fans here, the whole community coming out. We've had people, big crowds at different events, but nothing like this. This was the atmosphere. They were all on their feet the entire time. It was just great to see the support that the student athletes have from everybody here at Swarthmore.
Yeah, there's just something different about being in the NCAA tournament, and especially when it's on your home field or home court.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing with the NCAA tournament games, another one that sticks out to me from 2018, I traveled with baseball to the NCAA regionals, and they were playing. We were up in Auburn, New York. It's a double elimination tournament. We had already beaten Southern Maine once, and we had to play them again. It was getting really late because of there was all these rain delays and games that had happened before, and we were waiting for them to finish. So we didn't start this game until I think 9:20, 9:30 was the first pitch. So it was late. We weren't sure if we were going to get it in. And but if we won this game, we'd eliminate Southern Maine and move on to the College World Series. So we're like, we want to play this game tonight. we don't want to, stay here, sleep on here another day and have to do this the next day. Like, we've got momentum, like, let's play this tonight. So we started it. We were losing in the 5th inning. Southern Maine has the bases loaded, and Charles Groppy's on the mound. Bases loaded, nobody out. I'm like, oh no, like this game, like, it could go off the rails like really quickly here. But he struck out the next 3 batters and got out of the jam without allowing a run to come home. And there was a moment, I'd have to double check the box score, but I feel like there was a moment where he had a full count, and there was a pitch that was, the umpire waited really long to call whether it was a ball or a strike, and it would have walked in, another run. But he got the strike, and like, I was taking pictures and just seeing his face like light up, like go from like, no, I walked in a run to, oh, I struck him out. I'm pretty sure it was the 3rd out of the inning. But anyway, so that game, we took the lead. The game was still going after midnight. The bullpen's in and pitching, and Zach Gonzalez is in. The clock hits midnight. He gets out of the inning, pretty much right at midnight. His teammates realize that it's the next day technically, and that it was actually Zach Gonzalez's birthday that day. So at midnight, we start singing happy birthday to him as he walks off the field. So ended up winning that game well after midnight and advancing to the College World Series. So that game definitely sticks out to me as a memorable moment for sure. Yeah.
So sticking with, mine's a season, not necessarily just a game. Mine's a season. The Swarthmore men's basketball 2019-2020 season. From the beginning of the season all the way through the end, they were number 1. They had an undefeated regular season. They made it to the conference championship, and then they were hosting the NCAA tournament before everything got shut down. But just seeing how those student athletes handled everything, handled the pressure of being number 1 the entire season, was memorable, because they just said, okay, it's another game. We'll move on. Another game. Anytime that they faced some sort of adversity, they moved on and made sure that they just knew, just another game. We can come back from it. You even had the National Rookie of the Year in Vinny D'Angelo, and he's somebody that's local. Like, we were talking about how student athletes are from all over the place, and the student population are from all over the country. Vinny D'Angelo is from Aston, about 10, 15 minutes from here, not even. And having the local coverage from him helped. But then we had the city. Philadelphia is a big basketball city. You have the Sixers, you have the Philadelphia Big Five, and those are the Division I schools for the Philadelphia Big Five. Mm-hmm. Then you have the other Division II schools. Then you get down to Division III, where we don't get as much coverage from the media, but having the Philadelphia media come out and say, whoa, Swarthmore's undefeated. They're number 1 in the country. They're on a roll. Here they are. That's really cool, just seeing from like where I grew up. You don't really see much about Swarthmore, and then you finally see it, and it's like, huh, Villanova who? Like, yeah. So that's definitely a memorable season for me. And I have another memorable game, but I'll switch gears. It's back to the fall. Is the 2019 Centennial Conference tournament for volleyball. We were at Haverford. We had just lost to them earlier in the week to end the regular season. We were just trying to wait and see what's going to happen with the seeding and how everything's going to pan out. So we ended up being the road team at Haverford. We lost the first set, and then second, third, and fourth set, immediately we won. So it was pretty cool seeing the excitement and the students turn out for the road game too, because we were on the road against Haverford, and then from there we went on to play the eventual national champions in Johns Hopkins at Johns Hopkins in the Centennial semifinals. So that's 2 quick ones for me. A lot going on.
Yeah, you got to see a lot in your first year here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do one more. This game sticks out to me just because of how crazy it was from a statistics perspective. I was keeping stats for this game, and I promise I didn't fudge any of the numbers. These are real numbers. 2019 Swarthmore versus MIT men's basketball, second round of the national tournament, NCAA national tournament. And this was a big game. Swarthmore was ranked 6th. MIT was ranked 12th. I think Swarthmore, had one of the hardest pods in the tournament that year. And Swarthmore just ran MIT out of the gym. It was unreal. The fans were all chanting safety school at MIT and all. Like, it was just an absolutely nutty environment. People wearing hot dog costumes and all sorts of different things. But the statistical side of it, Swarthmore made 13 straight 3-pointers, setting an NCAA Division III record. They just couldn't miss. It was crazy. In the first half, from the floor, they shot 89% in the first half. It was just like make after make after make after make. And for the game, they cooled off a little bit in the second half, but they shot 72.5% for the whole game. I had never seen a shooting performance like that. And who knows if I'll ever see one, even remotely close to that again, just because that was such an anomaly. But yeah, Swarthmore, I believe the final score was 105-65, just absolutely ran MIT out of the gym with how hot they were shooting. So that is probably one of the most memorable games I've been a part of.
Like you said, the stats just speak for itself. 13 consecutive threes and running MIT out of the gym is astonishing. Like, I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah. No. Not in the NCAA tournament too. It wasn't just some like random game, random
non-conference opponent, that schedule filler.
Yeah. All right. Well, those were some of our most memorable moments from games, and we are going to send it over to Max Miller, Assistant Athletic Director for Recreation and Wellness, to get an update from him about what's going on this semester in recreation and wellness and PE.
Thanks for having me on with you today. Excited to share what's going on. So over the last few weeks within intramural sports, we have been getting people to sign up for our League of Legends ongoing season for the spring semester. We started it in the fall with just a round robin tournament. And there was great success. Over 55 people were playing. There was a Discord channel created, and there was desire to start looking into streaming onto Twitch once a week, and especially with the playoff matchups. So that's going to be an ongoing season that will culminate in a playoff tournament to end the spring semester. So looking forward to having more students participating this semester, in addition to some faculty and staff members on campus. I know there's some folks within CS that are chomping at the bit to get in on the action. So that's going to be exciting to add to the intramural sports programming, obviously done virtually. Bringing back the Words with Friends competition for yet another semester. That's always a great hit. I'm going to see if somebody can beat our back-to-back champion. Georgina within HR is now our GOAT of Words with Friends. So we'll see how the competition stacks up to take down Georgina within HR. And then around March, gonna do a little March Madness tournament with NBA 2K and FIFA, and we'll see if there's any interest for Rocket League, which is a great cross-platform game. So that's some highlights from intramural sports. For this semester, for group exercise, there's 11 classes that will be offered throughout the week on Zoom and then live stream to YouTube, so that anybody can take the class at whatever time fits them. Adding in gentle yoga on Sunday mornings as sort of a recovery restorative practice, in addition to the other classes that take place during the week. There's Pilates, some strength classes, and obviously a few other yoga classes during the week. And then with PE, looking to we're having a great offering this semester with our physical education courses, and especially once the weather turns for spring 2, the second half of the semester, we're going to be moving outdoors for outdoor yard games, ultimate frisbee, and a few courses of walk, jog, run. Ultimate frisbee is a throwback for some of our alum to the earlier 2000s, and looking to bring that back to get people some great experience to the sport, and have fun with our coach, Eric Wagner, who's going to be leading that. People can definitely follow along on social media, specifically Instagram for SWAT Recwell, to see what program offerings are out there.
Thanks for the update, Max. Now on to our next subject, obscure box score. We've come across many different box scores throughout this project of historical archiving. Sometimes the box scores, we have to be very gentle with them because the paper is so old that it might just fall apart in our hands. What is your most obscure box score that you've come across?
All right, so yeah, like you said, we found some really interesting box scores, really interesting notes in and things that whoever filled out the box score probably thought wouldn't be online 70 years from now or whatever, from when they did them. But the one that stands out to me, this is one of my favorites. Just happened across it from men's soccer, October 18th, 1958. Swarthmore versus Johns Hopkins. Swarthmore won 2-0. Always great beating Johns Hopkins, but I'm looking at the game details of the box score. They've got the starting lineup filled out there. They list the goal scorers, and then at the bottom in the game details, it says dog on field much of second half. So I would love, I'd love if there was a broadcast of that game. It's like having a dog streaking across the field for much of the second half and them just like trying, well, I guess we're just going to keep playing and just avoid the dog. So that's definitely an obscure box score in my book.
Yeah. So did they just not stop the game and try and get the dog off the field, I wonder?
I don't know. Yeah. They maybe tried it first and then they're just like, you know what? It's a lost cause. Let's just keep playing.
So if anybody has any information on this, please let us know.
Yeah, seriously. If you were on the 1958 men's soccer team and you remember that, we want to hear about it.
So I'll stick in the 1950s a little bit for just a brief segment. 1950s baseball had a lot of games canceled because of the flu. I thought it was kind of ironic because, well, we had several games canceled this past year because of COVID-19. But also in the 1950s, I couldn't find the exact box score, but when I remember scanning it, somebody wrote in the game detail for the weather. Usually it's sunny, cold, windy, beautiful day, except they wrote horrible day, raining, cold, why are we playing? So I don't blame them for writing that, but like you said, I don't think they'd expect it to be on the internet.
Yeah. So
it's somewhere out there on our comprehensive history. If I find it, I'll make sure to let you know of it. But there was one that's more of I'm glad I kind of found it because there was more that I didn't know about. Stan Cope, class of 1976. He made his collegiate pitching debut on April 14th, 1973. He threw a no-hitter in his collegiate debut. Had no idea that was even in our record books until I was able to find the box score, and then with it was a little newspaper article. So he struck out 5 batters and walked 1 in 7 innings of game 2 of a doubleheader. They beat a pharmacy school, which is now the University of Sciences, 16-0. So going back, like we said, baseball has its history, and I just thought that was a very interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that feeling like you're playing your first collegiate game and you pitch a no-hitter. You're like, oh, like, wow, this is pretty great.
Yes. It's a lot of pressure after that.
I know. Yeah, seriously. I wonder what his second outing was like, but
I'll have to ask Coach Mitkiff what he would do right now if one of his student athletes did that.
Yeah. Matt, I think that brings us to the end of our segments. I know we wanted to, we've been talking a lot of history in Swarthmore Athletics, and we do want to make a final appeal to people that have made it all the way through this video and through this podcast. If you're still watching, you're still with us, we want to hear who you think should be in the Swarthmore Athletics Hall of Fame. We've tossed around a lot of names, and some of those names, they might not be eligible yet because you do have to be 10 years removed from graduation. But some, it might be their time to be in the Hall of Fame. We didn't have a 2020 class, but we will have a 2021 class, hopefully. And we are taking nominations. So if you do have someone in mind or a team in mind that you think would be a good fit, please let us know. You can do that by, you can email myself or Matt. You can email athletics@swarthmore.edu, or you can fill out a nomination form on swarthmoreathletics.com, or just, send us a mention on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @SWAT Athletics. And, we'll get to it and we'll start researching that name and see, present them to the committee to see if they're worthy of the Hall of Fame. So, with that, I think we're going to be signing off on today's episode of the Swarthmore Athletics podcast. We tried something different today. We hope you like it. And, we hope that we'll have more episodes like this in the future. For Matt Judge, I'm Brandon Hodnett signing off, and have a great night. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Swarthmore Athletics podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share it with your friends.